In just over 3 months, Finnish sniper Simo Häyhä killed over 500 enemy soldiers during the Winter War, earning him the nickname the White Death. Indeed, he would go down as one of the most lethal snipers of all time. Just after the start of World War II on 30 November 1939, the Soviet Union invaded Finland, pouring hundreds of thousands of troops across the border. It was a move that would cost tens of thousands of lives and began the legend of Simo Häyhä. For 3 months, the two countries fought the Winter War, and though Finland, the underdog, lost and was forced to cede 11% of its territory, it was but a Pyrrhic victory for the Russians, as they lost huge numbers of men and equipment, were kicked out of the League of Nations, and, perhaps most importantly, it demonstrated that the Red Army was unprepared for modern warfare. A point that a certain man with a moustache in Germany would take note of. The Finns' stubborn defence of the country stunned the Soviet Union. Stalin, upon invading, had believed that the Nordic country was easy meat. His reasoning was sound. After all, the numbers were overwhelmingly in his favour. The Soviet army attacked Finland with 750,000 men, while Finland's army was just 300,000 strong. The smaller nation had just a handful of tanks and a little over 100 aircraft. The Red Army, in contrast, had almost 6,000 tanks and over 3,000 aircraft. It seemed to them that subjugating the Finns would be like taking a walk in the park. However, the Finns were well organised, brilliantly led and tenacious. Also, they had something that the Russians didn't. A tiny farmer-turned-sniper named Simo Häyhä. Häyhä's transformation into the White Death. Standing just 5 feet 3 inches tall, the easygoing Häyhä was far from intimidating and actually quite easy to overlook, which is perhaps what made him so suited for sniping. Like most Finns, he completed his compulsory year of military service at 19 and then returned to his country life of farming, skiing and hunting. He was noted as a good rifle shot in his province of Viipuri in the south of Finland near the border with the Soviet Union, and his home was filled with trophies for marksmanship. These skills would serve him well in the Winter War. After the Soviets invaded, Häyhä, like all men and women with military service, was called up. In preparation for joining his unit in the Finnish army, he inspected his old issued rifle. It was an antique, early series Seiko M2830, a variant of the old Russian 7.62 caliber Mosin Nagant, a standard infantry pattern with simple iron sights. No fancy telescopic lens for this humble farmer. Like the other men in his unit, Häyhä was issued the lightweight white snow cape. This snow camouflage made those who wore it almost invisible so that they could more easily execute guerrilla attacks against Soviet columns. It was extremely effective in the snow that blanketed the landscape several feet deep. Thus camouflaged, Häyhä could blend into the snow without a problem. Armed with his Seiko rifle and a Suomi submachine gun, Häyhä did what he did best. Preferring to work alone, he supplied himself with a day's worth of food and several clips of ammunition, then sneaked quietly through the woods. Once he found a spot with good visibility, he would lie in wait for the Red Army to stumble across his path. And stumble they did. Simo Häyhä's Winter War. Häyhä served as a sniper during the Battle of Kolar in temperatures between -40 and -20 degrees centigrade, under Lieutenant Arne Jutelinen in the 6th Company of the 34th Infantry Regiment. All of his kills were accomplished in less than 100 days, an average of 5 per day at a time of year with very few daylight hours. Häyhä is estimated to have dispatched over 500 Soviet soldiers, all with his antiquated Seiko rifle. Other snipers on both sides were using fine telescopic lenses to zoom in on the targets, while Häyhä made do with his standard iron sights, as he felt they enabled a sniper to present a smaller target for the enemy. A sniper must raise his head a few centimeters higher when using a telescopic sight, and could be relied upon even in extreme cold, unlike telescopic sights which tend to cloud up in cold weather. Another disadvantage of telescopic sights is that sunlight may reflect off the lenses and reveal the sniper's position. He'd also developed an almost foolproof way of not being sighted. On top of his white camouflage, he would frequently pack dense mounds of snow in front of his position to conceal himself, provide padding for his rifle, and reduce the characteristic puff of snow stirred up by the muzzle blast. He was known to keep snow in his mouth while sniping to prevent his breath in the cold air from giving away his position. Häyhä's strategy brought him success, but his missions were never easy. For one, conditions were brutal. The days were short, and when the sun set, temperatures rarely rose above freezing. Despite the perils of his situation, Häyhä professed to never feel fear and obsessively cleaned his weapon to make sure that it worked in the freezing temperatures, and would also visit favourite firing positions at night to prepare. Simo Häyhä soon gained a reputation among the Russians as the White Death, the tiny sniper who lay in wait and could hardly be seen in the snow. He was also a legend among Finns at home, nicknamed the Magic Shooter. Naturally, the state used him for propaganda, and in the people's minds he had begun to achieve a mythic status, a sort of guardian spirit who could move like a ghost through the snow. Awards. Häyhä was awarded the first and second class Medals of Liberty, as well as the third and fourth class Crosses of Liberty. The latter two were normally granted to only commissioned officers. As an additional honour, on 17 February 1940 he received a special name-plated Seiko M2830 Pistakova honorary rifle. The end of the White Death. Unfortunately, 11 days before the Winter War ended, the White Death met his match. On March 6, 1940, a Soviet soldier, perhaps another sniper, spotted him and shot him in the jaw with an explosive bullet. Häyhä was in a coma for 11 days. He woke up just as the peace treaties were being drawn. As part of the agreement, as stated earlier, Finland had to cede 11% of its territory. However, it retained its sovereignty. The Soviet Union was, in contrast, booted out of the League of Nations, and encouraged by the Red Army's poor performance, Germany would soon begin preparations for its own invasion of the Soviet Union in the summer of 1941. Häyhä's injury was devastating, and yet he recovered in time, going on to lead a full life, using his sniping skills to become a successful moose hunter, regularly going on hunting trips with Finnish President Urho Kekkonen. He passed at last in 2002 at the ripe old age of 96. If you enjoyed watching this short presentation on Simo Häyhä, then please consider liking and subscribing. See you next time.